So, we've talked about chown. Let's talk about it some more. Did you know chown has a recursive mode? I didn't, at least not until I read the chapter. And now that I've read the chapter, I can convey that information to you. Very, very convenient here, this entire ecosystem we have set up. I broadcast my voice, and your minds happily receive the information. And at the end of the day, we both leave having learned something. Now, let's talk about recursive change ownership. The way it works is you use change mod and you apply your permissions using characters instead of the binary values. So if we wanted to create a file and give it execute permissions, we would do the following. Let's create a file called touch_test.bin. Now let's do an ls-l, and as you can see, test.bin is read writable, but it's not executable. So if we want to make that file executable, we would do change mod plus x to give it execute permissions on /test.bin. Now when we do an ls-l, you'll see test.bin is now executable all the way through. If we wanted to change the group using change mod, we would use the G flag. So let's say we wanted to give groups write permissions to test.bin. What we would do is change mod G plus W accounting /test.bin. Now when we do ls plus L, you'll see accounting now has write permissions. So that's a lot easier to change permissions on a file than it would be to just use the change mod 770. Depending on how comfortable you are with the binary notation of file permissions, the recursive version of change mod might actually be easier to use. I prefer the binary notation version just because it's what I've gotten comfortable with over years and years. It's easier to type numbers than it is to type letters and characters for me. So let's do a quick change mod exercise. Let's make a dir called temp, and then let's cd to temp. Cool, so now we're in that folder and we're gonna copy everything from etc a to e. Cool. Now let's do ls. Cool, and we got some files here. So we copied a bunch of etc files to our temp directory. Now let's try changing ownership. If we do ls-l, we'll see we have root read write on a bunch of these folders right here. So what we want to then do is change mod a plus x /* to affect all the files, and then when we ls-l, we have execute permissions now on all these files, which is honestly very sketch. You don't want to have files just sitting around with execute permissions if you can avoid it, but hey, this is a lab. It's okay to have things be a little janky.